Tick tock, time to rock. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone who's watching from all over the world. Today it's a no atheist, no agnostic zone here. We've only got Christians in good standing with the Almighty through Jesus Christ, and so should be a far more edifying show than with certain other people involved. I got Brother Rachid here with me. How you doing, Brother Rachid?
Hello, David. How are you? Long
I'm
time no see.
yeah, it's good. So you were actually the one who was pointing out. You pointed out to me. So what is it? There's a letter. There's a letter circulating. A letter circulating
Yeah.
from a variety of churches and organizations, and there was something that was similar, but a little more hostile last year. That was a petition that was put out by a variety of Middle East Christian groups and organizations and so on. And this on the one hand, they're voicing their concerns, and they have a lot of experiences that other people don't have. In other words, here we
Mhm.
are in the United States. Christians in Palestine are going through some things that we're not going through right now, and so
Mhm.
definitely certainly want to hear what they have to say. On the other hand, we don't want things spiraling into like Christian versions of Hamas. You know what I mean? So it's like that.
Yes. Yes.
That would be a problem.
Exactly.
So anyway, we've got the letter pulled up where they're going to again. We'll see who this was signed by, and it's a letter voicing concerns, and the letter that we'll be looking at is addressed to the global church. So it's Palestinian Christians saying, "Hey, here's the situation. Why have you guys abandoned us? Why are you ignoring what's going on here? Why are you just siding with Israel?" And then the petition, which again was from last year, but is related to it. We'll go ahead and go through that. But give us kind of an overview of everything before we start going into some details.
Well, here's the problem, David. The Christian minorities in the Middle East are persecuted through history from Islam, and we know that Islam invaded all neighboring countries, including what is called today Palestine. And Muslims never called it Palestine when they invaded it. It was called the land of Ilya, Ard Ilya. So it's or the other places, for example, there was no Iraq or Syria or they used to call them different names. So they attacked Iraq. They attacked what is called now today Syria. They attacked what is called today Israel and the West Bank and the neighboring places. They attacked also North Africa, Egypt, all those places. So we know that Christians lived as dhimmis, which is a form of submission to to Muslims. Christians lost numbers through the years, and here we go in the last century when Israel was established. Some Arab Christians stayed within the new state. There are actually now 200,000 Christians live in Israel, and others stayed on the other side, which is the West Bank and Gaza. And guess what? People in Gaza, they kept going less and less, as any other Arab Muslim country, and also in the West Bank, leaving for different reasons. Some of them because it's so hard to live there economically, some of them because it's so hard to live as a minority. Others have different reasons. Their family members are calling them to join them in the West. So everybody has his own reason, but Christians are less and less in numbers. So when October 7th happened, Christians living among the majority Muslims, they kind of they don't want to appear as if they are neutral or supporting the other side. So they have their own version of making their claims. And of course, the same narrative like Muslims. The narrative is this is our land. Jews have no historical uh, presence here. They just came from Europe. They occupied us, and They attacked us on 1948, and since 1948, they have been oppressing us until today. And Christians in the West are not looking into this into the lenses of Christians in the West Bank. They are just supporting Israel and ignoring us. And so they wrote this petition, an open letter from Palestinian Christians to Western church leaders and theologians, asking them to repent. Repent from the sin of supporting Israel. Repent from being a Zionist. A Zionist in their terminology is anyone who supports the existence of Israel or supports Israel's right to defend itself against the attacks of Hamas. So I am Zionist in their eyes. You are Zionist. Every Christian who donates to Israel or prays for Israel or the safety of Israel, including David Jeremiah, Franklin Graham, his dad, Billy Graham, all of the leaders in the Christian evangelical organizations in the West are Zionists. And I have a problem with that as a former Muslim. So that's why I think it's good to discuss these things, because in one hand, we want to support our Christians, brothers and sisters in the West Bank, but in the same time, we don't want them to come up with a heresy and coming up with something that is similar to, as you said, to Hamas, but in a Christian form.
Yeah, again, this is a difficult situation because the Christians there are part of the global church, and it's a really, really horrible, awful, messed up situation that Islam just somehow always puts people into. Islam always finds a way to put people in a situation where no matter what they do, it's a bad outcome. Right. So they give you multiple bad. Islam enters the picture, and then you're confronted with multiple bad options, and you have to kind of pick the least bad path forward. And then as soon as you do that, everyone says, look at this bad path you've chosen. Yeah, well, they kind of left me with a bunch of bad options. And so that's just kind of what we're stuck with, like the situation with Israel right now. Everyone's calling for different things. So look at the options of Israel. One, they could do what groups like Hamas wants to do and just like die or leave the land or something like that. That's a bad option. Two, it could just be, they could just say, okay, after every terrorist attack, we'll just instantly do some sort of ceasefire, or we'll go after a couple of their guys and then we'll do a ceasefire. That's a bad option too, because that sends the message to the terrorist, hey, go and kill a bunch of guys, just run and hide, and then we'll eventually, after a couple months, we'll let it go. And then you could go and launch another terrorist attack. Or three, there's a terrorist attack. These guys all run and hide among civilians, under civilians, behind civilians, and so on. And if you want to go get them, you end up killing a bunch of civilians. That's a bad option too. And so Islam just puts you in this situation where no matter what you do, you're bad and you're condemned. And so that's the situation for them. That's also the situation with Christians, that there are no good options. There are no good options for Christians in Palestine. Like no matter what they choose, no matter what they decide, they're just in a really, really terrible situation. And so, and here we are in the situation of having to, because this letter's written to us. This letter's written to the global church. So this is written to us. We are supposed to evaluate this, and we're supposed to be repenting. We're supposed to be repenting for believing that Israel has a right to exist. Guys, keep in mind, when I say Israel has a right to exist, I'm not even thinking in terms of like divine right, or it's not even how I'm thinking. I'm thinking there's a country right now, Israel. They have a right to exist, and I'm just talking about human rights, right? I'm just talking about human rights right now, right? Ukraine has a right to defend itself if it's attacked. Russia has a right to defend itself if it's attacked. Israel has a right to defend itself if it's attacked.
It's like saying David has the right to exist and defend himself if he's attacked.
Yeah, so when someone is, no, this one group doesn't have a right to exist or defend itself, that starts coming across very weird. And that's where our concerns come in. It's like, hey, you're putting out this letter, and hey, we do believe that people should be supporting Palestinian Christians. But if we're reading and you start denying Israel's right to exist in the world we're in right now, then we start thinking, this is sounding You're not like you're not like Hamas because they're condemning violence and so on, but you're in the once you start saying, "Hey, this nation doesn't have a right to exist," or if they're attacked by other people, they don't have a right to defend themselves against attacks. Now this is getting into some difficult situations here, and so we're going to
Yes.
go ahead and respond. So, should we go ahead and start looking at? Should we go ahead and go through some of this
Yeah,
article?
I suggest we start with the open letter because it was before the global church or the call to the global church. So the open letter will give us a, like a very good idea about the background of the other call to the global church.
So, you mean the petition on change.org?
Yes,
Okay.
that petition.
All right. So we're going
And
to
see
go.
how many signatures.
All right, and we'll see who this is from, and we'll go ahead
Yeah.
and check this out. All right, let me get this up here, and here it is. And so they got 22,000 signatures on this. It is titled "An Open Letter from Palestinian Christians." Open letter from Palestinian Christians to Western church leaders and theologians.
Yes.
And here we have, so a call for repentance. That's at the top.
Yes.
Call for repentance. An open letter from Palestinian Christians to Western church leaders and theologians, and top
And
supporter voices.
it's by Palestinian Christians.
Mm-hmm. Palestinian Christians. Why this petition matters. All right, so Brother Rachid, I'm just gonna go ahead and read through this entire thing. Stop anytime you want to comment, and I'll stop anytime I want to
Oh,
comment.
yeah, I want to comment a little bit to give a little background
Mm-hmm.
also to this letter because that's where I have problems.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can read. So when we read it, we have this in mind.
Okay.
So remember, this is October 20th. We're talking 2 weeks from October 7th. This is initiated by Bethlehem Bible College. So there is a Bible college in the city where Jesus was born, Bethlehem. Bethlehem is a Jewish name, by the way. So it means the house of bread.
House of bread. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So Bethlehem Bible College is a Palestinian, because it's in the West Bank, it's a Palestinian Bible college funded by Christians in the West, especially in America. They raise 1.5 million every year from America, from churches that supports Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And on the day of October 7th, the dean and the president didn't write even a prayer for the victims of October 7th people. The victims. They didn't even comment on it. On October 20th, after Israel started responding, they sent a letter to Western churches to repent. My problem is, why they didn't send a letter to Hamas to repent, or to the Palestinian Authority to repent, or to their own people to repent? Why it matters for them, people who live 4,000 miles or more away from them, to repent more than the people around them. I mean, Christians, the Christians in America and the West, they are not holding guns or RPGs or bombs or sending missiles to anyone. It's people from the West Bank and from Gaza who are sending those things, and they are the one who started October 7th. So if somebody needs to repent here, it should be the Palestinians who attacked Israel. But instead of addressing their message as Christians to people who are committing one of the biggest sins is to kill people, they addressed it to Westerns who are supporting their college and their salaries are coming from there. I have a big problem with this.
Yeah, and here we have a list of the organizations and institutions that signed this petition. So it's Kairos Palestine, Christ at the Checkpoint, Bethlehem Bible College, that's what you mentioned, Sabeel Ecumenical Center for Liberation Theology. So there is, there is what's called Palestinian Liberation Theology.
Hmm.
And we have a bunch of other organizations here: East Jerusalem YMCA, YWCA of Palestine. So anyway, lots of Christian organizations here signing on to this petition. Now let's go ahead and check it out. Again, Brother Rachid, we'll go ahead and read through this. Anytime you
Yes.
want to comment, just jump in. So, a call
Yes.
for repentance, an open letter from Palestinian Christians to Western church leaders and theologians, and quote from Isaiah 117, learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed.
Hmm.
We at the undersigned Palestinian Christian institutions and grassroots movements grieve and lament the renewed cycle of violence in our land. Uh-huh. Yeah, we do too. As we were about to publish this open letter, some of us lost dear friends and family members in the atrocious Israeli bombardment of innocent civilians on October 19th, 2023. Christians included, who were taking refuge in the historical Greek Orthodox Church of St. Porphyrius in Gaza. Words
Okay.
fail.
Did you notice something here? They jumped right to October 19.
Mm-hmm.
They mentioned the Israeli bombardments, but no mention of Hamas attacks or October 7th.
Yeah, or of what was going on and why this church was damaged by a bomb. It's because Hamas had set up shop right next to the place. As far as the story that Israel told, they bombed Hamas, and the church is right beside it, and the church's wall got damaged.
Yes. But they don't really say who started it always.
Yeah.
They blame the reaction, not the action.
Yeah, in other words, why did this church get damaged at all? It's because Hamas 2 weeks earlier, less than 2 weeks earlier, Hamas had went over, under, and through the fence between Gaza and Israel, killed over 1,000 people, took a bunch of hostages, ran back, and then Israel is responding by taking out some Hamas bases, and Hamas loves to set up shop beside or inside schools, beside or inside hospitals and so on, beside churches and so on, so that, and they acknowledge this, it's deliberately to maximize civilian casualties to help them with their PR campaign. So in other words, what Rachid is pointing out here is, if we were to actually say why did this church get damaged? This ancient, keep in mind, guys, this is an important church. This is a very ancient church. Why was it damaged? Well, seems like the main culprit would be Hamas destroying going and killing a bunch of people and then running and setting up shop right beside this church. But
Yes.
Rashid's point is there's no mention of any of that. It's just atrocious Israeli bombardment of innocent civilians, like Israel was like targeting the church. And so just right off the bat, there's something, I don't know. It doesn't seem like they're being at all balanced. If you wanted to criticize something Israel has done, by the way, in case anyone's wondering, I've said it a million times, I have no problem criticizing Israel, what the Israeli government does in some situation, or any other government in the world. You have to be able to criticize and so on. It's just certain things always end up like this, where Israel's responding to something bad happens, and then Israel is supposed to take all the blame and none for the people who start these things over and over again.
Yes.
So anyway, Christians included, who were taking refuge in the historical Greek church, words fail to express our shock and horror with regard to the ongoing war in our land. We deeply mourn the death and suffering of all people, because it is our firm conviction that all humans are made in God's image. I share that conviction. We are also profoundly troubled when the name of God is invoked to promote violence and religious national ideologies. Well, that's good, but that would, like, Hamas is like the paradigm example of a group that does that. Further, we watch with horror the way many Western Christians are offering unwavering support to Israel's war against the people of Palestine. Here again, to you Palestinian Christian organizations, churches, and so on, Yeah, we agree. You are in a really, really bad spot. We agree that we should do anything we can to help you. But when you're describing events like this, and you say, further, we watch with horror the way many Western Christians are offering unwavering support to Israel's war against the people of Palestine. How you put this? Israel's war against the people of Palestine, as if Israel just woke up
Yeah.
one day and said, we're declaring war on who? On the people of Palestine. Not that they're going after Hamas, who happens to be hiding behind the people of Palestine.
Here's a problem, another problem here. They consider Hamas is part of the people of Palestine and they have the right to resist. This is the problem. They see Hamas actions as a just legitimate resistance. That's why they don't mention it or criticize it. While Israel's response is a war against the people of Palestine. This is clearly not neutral, not even like close to reality. And they call support. If, for example, I come as Rachid and say Israel has the right to defend itself and go after Hamas, they will see it as unwavering support to Israel's war against the people of Palestine. So this is changing the perspective, changing the words, changing the actual thing. It's a fallacy actually. This is a straw man fallacy. They changed everything and they start criticizing it.
Yeah, so what you're saying is what lots of Christians in the West would support is Israel's right to defend itself against terrorist attacks. And when those terrorists come and slaughter a bunch of Israelis and take a bunch of Israeli hostages, we would support their right to defend themselves, to go after the people who killed their people, and to go and find their hostages. And if those terrorists are hiding behind and among and under and tunnels and so on, civilians, that it is regrettable collateral damage that Israel's not primarily responsible for. It's the terrorists who do this who are primarily responsible. They launch the terrorist attack, and they're the ones who are deliberately hiding among civilians because they are intentionally trying to maximize civilian casualties for their PR campaign. In other words, who's responsible primarily for civilians in Gaza dying? I would say Hamas. This letter makes it sound like it is exclusively just a problem with Israel.
It's a problem of Israel, and it's a problem with Western Christians too. They are involved in a way for them, in their eyes. You will see it at the end of the petition.
All right, let's go then further. We watch with horror the way many Western Christians are offering unwavering support to Israel's war against the people of Palestine. So again, Brother Rashid pointed out that's a straw man. We do not offer unwavering support to a war against people of Palestine. That would include Christians. That would also include some Muslims who want nothing to do with this and who just want to live more normal lives. The Christians and the Muslims who don't want this endless cycle of violence, they're all victims. They're all trapped on a side with a bunch of terrorists who will not stop launching attacks. And so they're we would not support a war against those people. But those people are caught in the crossfire here. While we recognize the numerous voices that have spoken and continue to speak for the cause of truth and justice in our land, we write to challenge Western theologians and church leaders who have voiced uncritical support for Israel and to call them to repent and change. Sadly, the actions and double standards of some Christian leaders have gravely hurt their Christian witness and have severely distorted their moral judgment with regards to the situation in our land. We come alongside fellow Christians in condemning all attacks on civilians, especially...
But listen to this, David. Mm-hmm. All attacks on civilians from Israel's side.
Yeah, from Israel's side. Because here's the thing, guys. There's a big difference. So when the IDF bombs an area of Gaza while hunting for Hamas, and civilians get killed, that's not because of targeting civilians. That's because the terrorists you're fighting do not come out and fight you. They hide behind civilians, right? When Hamas kills civilians, guess what? In Israel, the IDF does not hide behind civilians. Everywhere you go in Israel, there are places, there are bunkers to go and hide in, so that when there's a rocket attack, you can go and hide. Apartments, houses, they all have safe rooms. So when a missile alert goes, you go and get in your safe room. And so when there's an attack, civilians run and hide. They go to a place of safety. Soldiers go out and fight, which means if you are Hamas and you're killing a bunch of Israeli civilians, it's because that's who you want to kill. No, it's not, oh, I was going for the soldier and he just happened to be hiding behind a bunch of civilians, and so oopsie, I killed a bunch of civilians. It's not the case. If you're killing Israeli civilians, it's because you're targeting Israeli civilians.
And also, David, Israeli soldiers, they wear uniforms. Hamas only wear uniform when they want to shoot a video, but when the actual war happens, they remove them.
Yes, and they acknowledge that, again, they acknowledge that they do this to maximize civilian casualties, women and children and so on, getting killed in bombings and so on. Soldiers not knowing who is who, and so you don't know who's a soldier and who's a civilian and so on, because the Hamas jihadis are dressed like civilians, and they put people in a nightmare situation, and we look at this letter, and we come alongside fellow Christians in condemning all attacks on civilians. Especially defenseless families and children. Well, that's exactly what Hamas did. They attacked defenseless families and children. By the way, just in case anyone's wondering, if an IDF soldier attacks deliberately defenseless families and children, and just goes and kills people, targeting them, I would condemn that guy too. All right, so let's go. Yet we are disturbed by the silence of many church leaders and theologians when it is Palestinian civilians who are killed. We are also horrified by the refusal of some Western Christians to condemn the ongoing Israeli occupation of Palestine, and in some instances...
Yeah, go ahead.
And in some instances, their justification of and support for the occupation. So now we've got the occupation.
Hold on here. Mm-hmm. The occupation, it has two different definitions.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
One definition by Palestinians is every inch is occupied by Israel. So, for example, Tel Aviv is an occupied land. So they have to go out and leave back to Europe. So that's the occupation in their eyes. So if I go and say, no, Israel has the right to exist, already 164 countries recognize Israel as a state. Only the Muslim countries and other few countries, non-Muslims, who are refusing to recognize Israel. The rest of the world recognizes Israel as it is today. They will say, no, that's an occupation, and Christians should not support occupation. Well, I disagree with you, and I have the right to support the existence of Israel, and I will be with the 164 countries that are already recognizing Israel, including some Muslim countries like Morocco, United Arab Emirates, and Egypt and Jordan. And Bahrain. So I am with those. Are you going to reject the whole 164 countries and stand against them? So their definition of occupation is not the United Nations definition of occupation, which talks only about some parts of settlements in the West Bank.
And I just want people to keep in mind, because when we're talking about occupation, Right? We're talking about occupation of the land. As Brother Rachid pointed out, there are multiple meanings of that. So, on the one hand, if you say occupation, it can be the occupation in the sense that protesters are screaming from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. They view it as all occupied. Some have a more limited, narrow concept where Israel is, since they have a degree of control over the Palestinian territories right now, then then that's the occupation. Sounds like they're talking about the occupation in the sense of from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. And we've talked about this on many programs before, but just wanted to give people a quick rundown here, because the standard view that you get, if you were to go up to a protester, or apparently lots of people who are even in Palestine, and say, what happened? It will be, well, they were minding their own business one day in a land called Palestine. And so they had their country, Palestine, and then a bunch of Jews showed up and took the land, and that's what happened. And so that's what happened in the minds of lots of people. In reality, there was no nation called Palestine. This was the Ottoman Empire. This was a small, tiny little part of the Ottoman Empire. And the Ottoman Empire fought in World War I on the side of the Germans, lost the war, and at that point, the land was under the control of the British. And then they're going to find the British have the control of the land. And it's, wait a minute, we were just at war with this area. And so we are going to take precautions to avoid this, them going to war with us again. That's what happens after wars. So this became the British Mandate of Palestine. So this is a territory controlled by the British. After World War II, it was very clear by that point. It was clear before World War II, but especially during World War II, when you have the Mufti of Jerusalem working with Hitler and agreeing with Hitler that after the Nazis completely wipe out and exterminate the Jews of Europe, they're going to come down to the Middle East and help wipe out Jews there. That's what was going on during World War II. And after World War II, this gets brought up. Hey, we're Jews. You can't have us being controlled in an area by the people who were just conspiring with Hitler to exterminate us. You can't do that. We need a spot where we have our own political control, where we can defend ourselves and not be subject to people who admittedly want to completely exterminate and wipe us out. So everyone agreed that that was a good idea, except for the Arab nations there that surrounded the area. And so you had a part of the land was designated for Israel to be under their control, and other parts were going to be for another purpose. In other words, you're going to have a two-state solution. Arab nations rejected it. The Arabs rejected it. The Arab nations told the people in Israel, so the Arabs in Israel, they said, get out of there because we're going to go through and wipe out the Jews. So get out of your houses, leave, go somewhere else, and then we'll go in there, wipe out all the Jews, and then you can come back to your houses. Well, a lot of people ran. Some stayed. They're still there. But a lot of people left. The Arabs fought. Arabs lost. And then a bunch of people said, okay, let us back into our places. And the Israelis said, we'll let you back in your places that you fled so we could be exterminated? No. And so now it's an occupation. So anyway, point there is you had Jews there. You had Jews right there in Israel. You had Christians in Israel. You had Muslims in Israel. That was not a country called Palestine. That was part of the Ottoman Empire. Ottoman Empire defeated. Land controlled by the British after the Ottoman Empire was defeated. Land divided up specifically because there were a bunch of people who wanted to exterminate Jews, and therefore the Jews can't be under the control of those people who want to exterminate them. So divide up the land. One side accepted it, the other side rejected it, and the other side has continued to reject it and insists on violent attacks against Israel until they get their way. And the disturbing part of this letter is the letter from Christians seems to side with the Islamic view.
That's right.
It sounds like it's saying, yes, right. All the protesters and the Muslims are right. Israel just showed up one day, kicked everyone out of our land that was called, our country called Palestine, and ignored. I mean, I would just love at least one time in one of these letters or something like that, whoever it's from Christians, from Muslims, to actually like present an accurate history and then raise your complaints. Like present an accurate history of how we ended up in the current situation and the causes that led to it. And then after that say, and here's why we think this. I would take that much more seriously than just complete misrepresentations.
You know, David, what I don't like about most of Palestinians are playing the victimhood mentality. They never admit they had a role in what's going on. If you choose, for example, 1948 two-state solution, we would not have this now. If you choose in 1967 to have two-state solution, we would not be here today. If you choose after that peace, like Egypt did, signed peace with Israel to get Sinai back, we would not be here today. Every time they had a bad choice, they thought the first time in 1948 they are going to defeat Israel with the help of other Arab countries. They lost. Their predictions did not come true, and they lost. So they lost land. In 1967, they repeated the same thing, and they lost. And one time after the other, they make bad choices, and instead of owning their mistakes, they blame others. Now they are blaming Westerners for their problems. No, you made bad choices. On October 7th, you made bad choices. And I don't take responsibility for those choices. You do as Palestinians because you choose Hamas. You voted for them. More than 80% of Palestinians are supporting Hamas. So you own it. You should own it and say, we made a mistake. And you repent from your mistake. That's how you are going to get peace. But instead of owning their mistakes, they are blaming everyone else except themselves.
Yeah, this is again, this is just it's actually a perfect example. Yeah, I mean, you've got the situation now, but even in the situation back then, and you have nations around the world having to decide what to do about this situation. And the situation again is you have Jews there, you have Muslims there, you have Christians there, and you have a bunch of people who want to just completely exterminate the Jews. It's the land is under your control. It's under the control of the British. What do you do? What do you do in that situation? Well, guess what? No matter what you decide, the outcome is not going to be great. In other words, if you say Israel has control of this land, knowing that a bunch of people are going to flip out over that and it's going to cause problems and lead to wars, that's a rough situation. Do you just say, okay, we give the control to the Muslims and they're going to wipe out the Jews? So you look at the situation and there is nothing that is just a perfect, ideal situation. You do the best that you can in order to protect lives as best as you can. And the best they could come up with was, hey, we need to divide up this land. We need to divide up this land, even though this may lead to war. But what do? They offer the two-state solution, as they continue to do over and over again. One side kept rejecting the two-state solution. And here we are today, and still complaining, what? That Israel needs to just go away or something like that. It doesn't work like that, guys. You have to come up with a better plan. Let's see. So I'm a couple lines down in that first big paragraph there. We are also horrified by the refusal of some Western Christians to condemn the ongoing Israeli occupation of Palestine, and in some instances, their justification of and support for the occupation. Further, we are appalled by how some Christians have legitimized Israel's ongoing indiscriminate attacks on Gaza, which have, so far, claimed the lives of more than 3,700 Palestinians, the majority of whom are women and children. These attacks have resulted in the wholesale destruction of entire neighborhoods and the forced displacement of over 1 million Palestinians. Little side note. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, why? Why? Why are these neighborhoods being attacked? Because it's just indiscriminate? Israel's just, oh, okay, we have no idea where anyone is. We're just going to bomb all of Gaza? No. If Israel wanted to do that, Israel could bomb the entire area of Gaza down to nothing and no one would survive. That's what they could do if they wanted to. Why are they bombing places? Why were they bombing neighborhoods? Because the terrorists who just attacked their people went and hid there deliberately so that when Israel launches the countermeasures, civilians would be killed. Who wants civilians to be killed? Hamas. They tell you they want civilians to be killed. And yet somehow there's not one word of blame for them here. These attacks have resulted in the wholesale destruction of entire neighborhoods and the forced displacement of over 1 million Palestinians. The Israeli military has utilized tactics that target civilians, such as the use of white phosphorus. White phosphorus, just so everyone knows, is kind of like a smoke screen. You launch it and then it puts a cloud in an area so you can't see which direction people are coming from. But if you actually get hit with white phosphorus, it will burn you. So if you were actually to throw white phosphorus on a person, it would burn him. But white phosphorus would be used as, again, kind of a smoke screen. The cutting off of water, fuel, and electricity, and the bombardment of schools, hospitals, and places of worship. Again, quick question. Why are any schools, hospitals, places of worship being bombed? There's not one word.
You should not mention that. You just should blame Israel.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what happens inside. I mean, if you have tunnels or missile launchers or anything, that doesn't matter. It matters why they bombed them.
Yeah, so it's a situation where, again, you can have legitimate objections to something that the IDF does. When you write it like this, where there's just nothing going on, Israel just decides to bomb and kill a bunch of random Palestinians for no reason at all, and they're attacking deliberately schools, hospitals, and places of worship, and you don't include why any school might be attacked. Namely, that's where Hamas deliberately sets up shop, fires rockets from, hides in, hides under, specifically intending that the Israeli counterstrike will damage the building or kill civilians and so on. When you leave that out, it doesn't sound like you're being honest. And as much as I would be, I'd be happy. Tell me, guys, tell me what we can do to help Christians in Palestine. We'll do it if it's not completely insane.
They are not asking for help. They are just blaming Christians and everybody else.
That's what I mean.
Asking for help.
Yeah. So what I'm looking at here, when I say, tell us what we can do that's not completely insane. You say, what? You're saying we're completely insane? If you're saying that Israel is an occupier and Western nations need to be against Israel and want Israel wiped off the map so that Muslim organizations like Hamas can take control over it or something like that, I think that's completely insane. Or if you're saying Israel cannot defend itself and go after its hostages, even against people who are hiding among civilians, that sounds completely insane to me. Like what? Like think about if you actually took that seriously. You would be saying, hey, if you want to kill a bunch of people, just go kill a bunch of people and then run and hide among civilians and no one's going to come get you. No one's going to come get you and you'll be completely safe. And you could just do this forever. Okay, that sounds insane to me. There has to be a better solution than that. So, yeah, this is sounding kind of weird, Brother Rachid. Cutting off water, fuel, and electricity, and the bombardment of schools, hospitals, and places of worship, including the heinous massacre at Al Ahli Anglican Baptist. Hey, I remember that
one. Everybody, every country, every organization, they made their decision. This was not the IDF's fault. Yeah. It was the Islamic group that had a failed missile. And
so they launched their missile. It fell short, misfired, and hit the hospital. So this was a Hamas. That was a Hamas rocket, ladies and gentlemen. That's been confirmed. This was a Hamas rocket that damaged the hospital. Israel is still blamed for it to this day.
And guess what? They never came back and changed it. After all these months, they never apologized for saying it. So how should I trust their judgment or their resources if they cannot correct themselves?
Yeah, I agree. So, guys, again, we know things are going really, really terribly for Palestinian Christians and for Palestinian Muslims who would just like to live normal lives but can't. We know that. When you describe things like this, when you jump to blame and blame Israel for a Hamas rocket misfire, and then so on the one hand, we would question whether you should be calling them out for a rocket attack before the information comes in. But that's one thing. People can jump to a conclusion and be wrong. When you don't come back and correct the mistake and correct the blame, and you just keep it up there as if Israel is bombed this hospital, that makes us not trust you. I'm not talking about Palestinian Christians. I'm talking about whoever wrote this, namely the groups that signed this on the bottom. Already, I do not trust your framing of the story when you do this. So I'm saying this specifically because if you want us to agree with you and support you, and we look at this and we see problem after problem after problem after problem after problem, and what looks like just complete misrepresentation of various situations, then you're making it hard. So including the heinous massacre at Al-Ahli Anglican Baptist Hospital and the bombardment of the Greek Orthodox Church of St. Porphyrius, which wiped out entire Palestinian Christian families.
Okay, David, I want to stop right here. Do you know who supports the Al-Ahli Anglican Baptist Hospital? It's the Christians, Western Christians, who made this hospital and supported it. So they should repent. Not Hamas, who hit Al-Ahli Anglican Baptist. They should not repent. Not Iran, who funds these guys and give them weapons and destroyed their country. Not Hezbollah, who is joining them in destroying the whole region. Not the Houthis. So they never address all these guys. It's people, Westerners like you, should repent.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out why I'm being told to repent here. I mean, they said unwavering support for targeting Palestinian civilians, and so, well, I don't support that. So what are you talking about?
Because you are Zionist, David. Because you support Israel. How come you want Israel to exist in the Middle East? It's only for Muslims and a bunch of Christians who will live as dhimmis, or even for some Jews if they want to live as dhimmis.
Yeah. So I've been, I mean, it's interesting. If you go to Jerusalem, you go to the old city, you've got Muslims there, you've got Christians there, you've got Jews there, you've got all of them living in the old city, and you can actually walk down the walkways and you'll see Orthodox Jews in full Orthodox Jewish gear walking right past, Muslim women in full Islamic gear right by Christians on their way to head to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and so on. It's all happening right there. And you look at it and say, I think Israel's doing a better job at maintaining a level of peace here than Hamas would. And somehow the idea is, no, you have to end the Israeli occupation. And what happens then, guys? What happens then? Hamas takes over?
Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. I think Christians in this case are the useful idiots.
Yeah, and that's, by the way, that's my concern, Brother Rachid, is, I mean, I'll probably say this. I've already said it probably 10 times. I'll probably say it another 10 times before we finish. Guys, if anything that we can actually do that is not ridiculous or absurd or insane to help Palestinian Christians, happy to do it. Happy to do it. I mean, in fact, I don't even know what we're supposed to be able to do to help you. Let us know. But when this is the letter to us telling us what to do, and it sounds like it's like what Brother Rachid just pointed out. It sounds like you're being used by Muslims to spread the same agenda that Muslims want, namely they want Israel to be wiped off the map so they can take over. And guess what? I don't believe that's good for you Palestinian Christians. I do not believe that it's good for Israel to be wiped out. I think Israel's the only reason that you are at all safe right now. I think you're in far more trouble. If Hamas got what it wanted and Israel gets wiped off the map, I think you are in way, 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 way worse situation than you are right now. And so what do we do in this situation where you're saying, here's what you need to do. You need to call for the end of the occupation, and you need to be on the side of the jihadis. And that's what Christians are saying? You have Christian groups that are saying that?
Yep.
That sounds insane. That sounds insane to me. In other words,
Yep.
it's like a person comes to me and he's got wounds on him or something like this. He's got wounds, he's got knife wounds and stuff. And he's like, you need to help me. And I go, okay, I want to help you. And he says, okay, go murder that doctor who can help. I was like, what are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense. What you're saying doesn't make any sense. And so when you're saying, hey, Palestinian Christians are in a really bad spot right now, it's like, yes, I agree. What can we do? Well, you need to end Israel. Like, what? What the heck are you talking? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? I believe that would be way worse for you. That's not going to help you. That's going to. So anyway, that's the situation we're in for you Palestinian organizations over there who put this out. That's the situation we're in. What you're saying help you, or even just repent and so on. And it looks like what you're telling us to do would be way worse for everyone in the entire world, and especially for you. So that's the weird situation that we're confronted with here.
Yep.
All right. So moreover, this is the big paragraph here. Moreover, we categorically reject the myopic and distorted Christian responses that ignore the wider context and the root causes for this war. Well, that's our objection. We think people are ignoring the wider context and the root causes of this war. Israel's systemic oppression of the Palestinians over the last 75 years since the Nakba. So everything is Israel's fault, not the fault of the people who keep trying to annihilate Israel. The ongoing ethnic cleansing of Palestine. Ethnic cleansing, guys, just look at the population in Palestine. It's exploding. We've said it before. If Israel is trying to commit a genocide or an ethnic cleansing, they are the worst at it anywhere in history. Look at statistics on the Jewish population of Europe through World War II. Watch the population plummet. That's what a genocide looks like. Look at statistics on the population of Gaza and the West Bank. It's exploding. No pun intended. It's exploding. It's skyrocketing. That's the opposite of what you'd think would happen in a genocide or an ethnic cleansing. And the oppressive, and racist military occupation that constitutes the crime of apartheid. This is weird. Again, Christians, Muslims, Jews, all walking around freely right there in Jerusalem.
Not only that, the Baha'is cannot live in any Muslim countries. They have one of the biggest temples in the Middle East, right in Israel. The Ahmadis are persecuted in every neighboring country around Israel, and they are welcome to Israel. And the Druze, they are in Israel. Christians, even in babies, I had the chance to meet other Muslim background believers, and they said they're running away from the West Bank to Israel. They said, like, we finally got our.
Yep, Brother Rachid froze there for a second. Brother Rachid, I don't know if you can hear me, and I just can't hear you, but you kind of froze. So if you can, you might want to log out and log right back in. I'll just go ahead and read this paragraph until Rachid is back with us. So moreover, let's see, where did I stop? So apartheid is where I stopped. So apartheid. It's interesting when you ask what's the apartheid, you'll get, Muslims have to show their IDs when they go through checkpoints and stuff from Palestine to Israel, as if this is some great trauma or something, and as if there's no reason for requiring that. This is precisely the horrific context Okay. Oh, okay. Brother Rachid messaged me. He said his computer froze and he's restarting. No problem. This is precisely the horrific context of oppression that many Western Christian theologians and leaders have persistently ignored, and even worse, have occasionally legitimized using a wide range of Zionist theologies and interpretations. Just want to be clear. When you're talking about Zionist theology, a Zionist theology would be something like Israel has some divine right to the land. I said that's not even what I'm thinking here. I'm just thinking in terms of here's a nation. Nations have certain rights, including the rights to defend themselves and things like that. That's all I'm thinking. But as Rachid has pointed out, Zionist now doesn't even mean you're thinking in terms of divine right to the land. Instead, Zionist now just means you believe that Israel has a right to exist and defend itself. And so they're saying that these things have been legitimized using a wide range of Zionist theologies and interpretations. Again, I'm not using any Zionist theology. It's just you're saying that if I believe a nation has a right to exist, that makes me a Zionist. Well, if that's your definition, okay, then I would be a Zionist. So what's the problem? If it's a problem being a Zionist in that sense, you're saying that for me to be a Christian, I have to say that Israel has to be wiped out and given over to Hamas. That sounds completely insane to say that to me, guys. So I'm trying to understand you here, but that sounds completely insane and ridiculous. Moreover, Israel's cruel blockade of Gaza for the last 17 years. Why is there a blockade? Why was there a blockade? Because you're bringing in tons and tons of weapons. And they say, no, you can't just bring ships in there loaded with weapons and loaded with soldiers that are going to be used to exterminate us. Israel's cruel blockade of Gaza for the last 17 years has turned the 365 square kilometer strip into an open air prison. Here's another example, guys. Open air prison. I've been to prison. I've been to the West Bank. It didn't seem like a prison. It didn't seem at all like a prison. They have 4-star hotels there. You can go to a 4-star hotel right there in that open air prison. This is weird, wild stuff. Let's see. Let me get us back up here real quick. All right, everything working now? You hear me, Brother Rachid? Check, check, check. I don't hear you. Check, check. All right, now I hear your audio. Do you hear me now? Uh-oh. I kind of hear Rachid. All right, I'll go back to reading through this a bit. Let's see. Has turned the 365 square kilometer strip into an open air prison for more than 2 million Palestinians, 70% of whom belong to families displaced during the Nakba, who are denied their basic human rights. The brutal and hopeless living conditions in Gaza under Israel's iron fist have regrettably emboldened extreme voices of some Palestinian groups to resort to militancy and violence as a response to oppression and despair. This is really, really bad right here. Look at this. So the brutal and hopeless living conditions in Gaza. So you say, hey, why is there a problem? Well, the brutal and hopeless living conditions in Gaza under Israel's iron fist have regrettably emboldened some extreme voices of some Palestinian groups to resort to militancy and violence as a response to oppression and despair. So who is to blame for groups like Hamas? According to these Christians, Israel. In other words, these guys would have been completely peaceful if Israel weren't oppressing them and forcing them to live in an open-air prison. So why does Hamas want to kill Jews? Not because it's, as they say in their charter, that they've been commanded to fight Jews to bring about the end times, and the rocks and trees are going to be crying out, hey, Muslim, there's a Jew hiding behind me, come and kill him. Not because of any of that. Not because of any of that. It's these groups are just arising because they're being oppressed by Israel and being forced to live in an open-air prison. So in other words, the problem is Israel. The problem isn't Hamas. The problem isn't Islamic Jihad. The problem isn't Muhammad's command to slaughter Jews. None of that has anything to do with the situation. It's just Israel. Israel shows up. Israel oppresses everyone. And then you're getting the reluctant response, the reluctant violent response from Muslim groups. That's what you're getting. And what do we have? Sadly, Palestinian non-violent resistance, which we remain wholeheartedly committed to, is met with rejection, with some Western Christian leaders even prohibiting the discussion of Israeli apartheid, as reported by Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, and B'Tselem, and as long asserted by both Palestinians and South Africans. Time and again, we are reminded that Western attitudes towards Palestine, Israel... Brother Rachid's still in there. Let me go back, see if this is working. Hey, still don't hear you. What did you do? You were working fine before. You sure your mic is on? Do you hear me? Okay, you hear me. I don't hear you. So... yeah, you keep working on that. I'll keep reading through. I'll let you know when I can hear you. Let's see. Time and again, we are reminded that Western attitudes towards Palestine, Israel suffer from a glaring double standard that humanizes Israeli Jews while insisting on dehumanizing Palestinians and whitewashing their suffering. This is evident in general attitudes towards the recent Israeli attack on the Gaza Strip that killed thousands of Palestinians, the apathy towards the murder of the Palestinian American Christian journalist Shireen Abu Akleh in 2022, and the killing of more than 300 Palestinians, including 38 children, in the West Bank this year before this recent escalation. Let me see if we can get Brother Rachid back here. Oh, nope, disappeared again. All right, Brother Rachid's having technical problems. It seems to us that this double standard reflects, and keep in mind, if you're going to say that the problems are with Israel, and look at these bad things, and we keep looking up the bad things, and it turns out to not be the way you're misrepresenting them, and you completely gloss over the decades of terrorist attacks against Israel, and it's just... I don't know, when you start off by saying, hey, we need to look into the causes, and you don't mention even once all the constant endless attacks against Israel, because people have been commanded to annihilate Jews by Muhammad, and none of that plays any sort of role, according to you, in this conflict. And Israel's treatment of Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank. You act like that has nothing to do with all the terrorist attacks coming from Gaza and the West Bank, and it's just Israel oppressing everyone else. It's hard to take it seriously. So something actually balanced. Again, I have no problem with criticizing Israel. When it's written like this, it sounds really, really, really strange. Let's see. Brother Rachid, your mic working yet? Hey, I just heard you.
You hear me?
Yeah, hear you now. Got you back.
I hear you. So either this or that.
Oh, you can't hear me?
That's weird. Oh,
you don't hear me?
Either this or that.
Do you hear me now? No, I don't hear you. This is a weird situation. Let's see. All right, so Brother Rachid can either hear me or we can hear him, but not both simultaneously. All right, we'll go ahead and finish out this letter. So we've got this double standard. It seems to us that this double standard reflects an entrenched colonial discourse that has weaponized the Bible to justify the ethnic cleansing of indigenous peoples in the Americas. Oh my goodness, guys, this is where it becomes very... I hear you again, Brother Rachid. Do you hear me yet? I'm guessing not. I can hear him. He can't hear me. So look at this. So this is look at this part of the letter. The claim is that the reason Christians in the West have a double standard is because we believe in colonialism. We believe in colonizing and subjugating the peoples in Americas and in other places. The slavery of Africans and the transatlantic slave trade and decades of apartheid in South Africa. So that's the claim, that we believe in colonial theologies where we get to go around and subjugate. Guys, you've completely lost us by now. When we look back at things like the slave trade and so on, we don't look at it and say, wow, this is great. This is part of our theology. We look back at it as, how could anyone have supported this thing? So when you're saying the reason you support what Israel's doing is because you support colonialism and subjugating people and oppressing different races and so on, you sound like complete. I can't even take you seriously at this point. Let's see, Brother Rachid here. Hey, Brother Rachid.
Hello.
Do you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, you're back then. Whatever you did, it worked.
Oh, finally. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good. You're good. I don't know if you wanted to comment on any of the stuff. I mean, it's some of the same stuff over again. But
where are you at now?
Yeah, let me show you. So I'm right here at this. I'm right here at this point. It's, okay. We just started talking about this. It seems to us that this double standard reflects an entrenched colonial discourse that has weaponized the Bible to justify the ethnic cleansing of indigenous peoples in the Americas, Oceania, and elsewhere, the slavery of Africans and the transatlantic slave trade, and decades of apartheid in South Africa. In other words, the reason we're supporting Israel is because we have, in the West, we've weaponized the Bible to justify ethnic cleansing of indigenous peoples, and we just support Christians going around subjugating the world, and that's why we support Israel. That's what it looks like. And I already said, I was like, at this point, you've lost us completely, because we don't say with great pride and so on, yes, we love subjugating the world, and so we support Israel subjugating all the people and so on. It's
and what saddens me more is they never mention anything about their own countries being colonized and being slaves and paying jizyas, dhimmis. Their people were taken through the history. They consider Islam and as part of their culture, but they never criticized it the same way. And yet they are asking the West to repent from the past and from all what happened, which is not completely true, because there are a lot of details we can discuss here. But this narrative is exactly what Muslims say, and this narrative is it's like anti-Western, anti-Christian. It has nothing to do with some people are asking for help or asking for compassion.
Yeah, this is just really this is really wild stuff here. And so
this will not differ. This will not differ from something that Hamas will write.
Exactly. That's the issue. I mean, they're saying we have double standards, and this is completely one-sided. It ignores everything. It ignores everything that actually led up to the situation in 1948. It ignores everything that's happened since then. Portrays Israel as just random invaders who came along and started attacking and oppressing everyone and forcing them to live in an open air prison and so on. And then why are Christians in the West on the side of Israel? Is it because we look at the situation and we think, we think that we Western Christians think that Israel will do a better job of maintaining some sanity in the area than Hamas?
Do you know one thing is fascinating about this? Most of the people who wrote this are evangelicals, and evangelicals never existed except around 200 years ago, because Christians went there and started preaching the gospel there. Otherwise, they would not have existed under the Muslim occupation. They didn't have freedom. The Bible was translated into Arabic. There is a famous translation called Van Dyck, was translated by an American missionary. Without him, you would not have the Bible. The Bible was translated and printed and distributed through the Bible Society, which is a Western organization. All of what they are enjoying right now, even Bethlehem Bible College is supported by evangelicals from the West. Every ministry you can think of in the Middle East is supported by Western Christians, that the letter addressing them to repent.
This is, yeah, so to everyone who signed this, and agrees with this, I have to say, the way you're writing this, you Western Christians have double standards because you have a colonialist view where you get to go around and subjugating the rest of the world and so on. I have no idea what your target audience is. You are not going to reach Western Christians like this unless they are like extreme leftists or something like this. This seems like this is the sort of language and rhetoric that works with certain groups. It's not going to work with mainstream Christians in the West. It's not. So if that's your target audience, you seriously, seriously need to fix this. You're coming, I mean, just I don't know, everything you're saying seems like completely biased, one-sided. Everything's a straw man. I don't imagine you winning much support using this methodology. Anyway, let's go ahead and finish this letter up. Colonial theologies are not passé. They continue in wide-ranging Zionist theologies and interpretations that have legitimized the ethnic cleansing of Palestine. What ethnic cleansing of Palestine? The population is booming. And the vilification and dehumanization of Palestinians, Christians included, living under systemic settler colonial apartheid. This sounds like something a Western far-left college student would write, describing the situation.
Exactly.
It's matter of fact. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, if it's too long, the last paragraph will summarize everything.
Yeah, it's like if you took one of the protesters screaming from the river to the sea and said, write a letter about what's going on. This sounds exactly like what they would write. I mean, an actual like clueless protester. Like if you take a protester off the streets from one of these things who can't tell you anything about, I'm talking the people, the sort of people who say from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. And you say, what river, what sea? And they have no idea what they're talking about. If you were to take one of those protesters and say, write a letter to Christians about what's going on in Israel right now and in the surrounding territories, the West Bank and Gaza, this sounds exactly like that. All right, so let's go ahead and let's zoom through this further. We are aware of the Western Christian legacy of just war theory that was used to justify dropping atomic bombs over innocent civilians in Japan. So now we're being called out for World War II and for bombing Japan. Japan during World War II, the destruction of Iraq and the decimation of its Christian population during the latest American war in Iraq, as well as the unwavering and uncritical support for Israel against the Palestinians in the name of moral supremacy and self-defense. Regrettably, many Western Christians across wide denominational and theological spectra adopt Zionist theologies and interpretations that justify war, making them complicit in Israel's violence and oppression. Some are also complicit in the rise of anti-Palestinian hate speech, which we are witnessing in numerous Western countries and media outlets today. I don't know what social media they're on, but I can't go on there without seeing endless messages calling for the extermination of Jews. Although many Christians in the West do not have a problem with the theological legitimization of war, the vast majority of Palestinian Christians do not condone violence, not even by the powerless and occupied. You seem to be tossing up quite a smokescreen for Hamas to go around slaughtering people.
Yeah.
Instead, Palestinian Christians are fully committed to the way of Jesus in creative, nonviolent resistance, which uses the logic of love and draws on all energies to make peace. Crucially, we reject all theologies and interpretations that legitimize the wars of the powerful. We strongly urge Western Christians to come alongside us in this. Well, you did a terrible job of making your case. I'm just being honest here. I'm just being honest. If you want to, again, if you want to come up with something we can do to support Palestinian Christians, good. When you write a letter and saying, "Oh, the reason you're doing that is because you like bombing Nagasaki and Hiroshima." Yeah. Okay, you sound. I can't take you seriously at this point. We also remind, this is weird, Brother Rachid. I was like thinking we're going to go through this. We're going to go through this and be like, hey, this is a really good point here. This is a really good point there. Here we have to disagree a little bit. And so I thought that was what was actually going to happen. I'm sitting here reading this going, this is crazy. This is awful.
I told you, I warned you.
Wow. I'm really hoping there are some saner voices there that are more balanced. Again, guys, I'll say it a million times. You can have legitimate concerns about something that the IDF does and so on, and you can have legitimate criticisms, and you can have legitimate demands for fixing bad situations. When you come across exactly the same, I mean, if Hamas were to write a letter for the Christians as they put this out, this is exactly what you'd get. This is exactly what you'd get.
They will love it.
Yeah.
They will love this.
We also remind ourselves and fellow Christians that God is the God of the downtrodden and the oppressed, and that Jesus rebuked the powerful and lifted up the marginalized. This is at the heart of God's conception of justice. Therefore, we are deeply troubled by the failure of some Western Christian leaders and theologians to acknowledge the biblical tradition of justice and mercy as first proclaimed by Moses and the prophets and as exemplified and embodied in Christ. Finally, here's the...
Oh, finally, this is the one. This is the cream of the cream.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is the good stuff. Okay.
Yep.
Finally, and we say it with a broken heart, we hold Western church leaders and theologians who rally behind Israel's wars accountable for their theological and political complicity in the Israeli crimes against the Palestinians, which have been committed over the last 75 years.
Oh, hold on here. Hold on. So for 75 years, you, Dave, and all your Christian white people in the West are responsible for the crimes committed against Palestinians. It's not Arabs who waged wars second day Israel claimed to be an independent state. It's not Arabs who wanted to wipe Israel. It's not people who tried to bomb Israel and committed suicidal bombs. They go to buses and schools and pizzerias and every restaurant you can think of. No, it's not Yasser Arafat who started hijacking planes and killing people just to show they have a cause. It's not none of those. It's you, David, and your Christian churches who are actually supporting these Christians until today.
Yeah, that's me.
Yep. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? This is. I mean, it's insane. It's insane.
Yeah, this is terrible, guys. And I'm saying this as someone who, again, would be happy to help in any sane way. This is absolutely insane here. We're the ones who are responsible for Israel coming in out of nowhere, conquering the land of Palestine, subjugating and ethnically cleansing and genociding everyone and so on. And who's Hamas? Who are these guys? Well, these guys, this was earlier in the letter, these guys are just people who were reacting to Israeli oppression. That's what happened. So it's nothing to do with Muhammad, nothing to do with centuries of Islamic invasions and conquering and so on. Nothing to do with any of that. It's just the Jews. It's all the Jews. Jews. Shame on the Jews. It sounds exactly like Hamas. Go ahead.
What saddens me also is they never mentioned the Jews that were persecuted and kicked out of their Arab countries, from Egypt, from Morocco, from Yemen, from Iraq, from neighboring countries. They never mentioned them. It's like Jews came from Mars. They just landed from another planet, and they took that place, and they started subjugating people. And Christians in the West, they were they were clapping for them. Go for it. We will support you.
Yeah,
It's a distorted reality for them. It's like delusional.
it is. It's delusion. That's why I said it sounds insane. It sounds completely delusional. Anyway, let's finish this paragraph. We call upon them, so Christians, to re-examine their positions and to change their direction. Well, give us a direction we can go that's actually not insane. Remembering that God will judge the world in justice, we also remind ourselves and our Palestinian people that our samud, steadfastness, is anchored in our just cause and our historical rootedness in this land. As Palestinian Christians, we also continue to find our courage and consolation in the God who dwells with those of a contrite and humble spirit. We find courage in the solidarity we receive from the crucified Christ, and we find hope in the empty tomb. We are also encouraged and empowered by the costly solidarity and support of many churches and grassroots faith movements around the world, challenging the dominance of ideologies of power and supremacy. We refuse to give in, even when our siblings abandon us. That's us. We're the siblings who abandon them. We are steadfast in our hope, resilient in our witness, and continue to be committed to the gospel of faith, hope, and love in the face of tyranny and darkness. In the absence of all hope, we cry out our cry of hope. We believe in God, good and just. We believe that God's goodness will finally triumph over the evil of hate and of death that still persist in our land. We will see here a new land and a new human being capable of rising up in the spirit to love each one of his or her brothers and sisters. So all of that, very, very nice language. What's the actual takeaway? How do you get to this? How do you get to this this triumph over evil and hate and death? How do you get to this new land and new human being rising up in the spirit of love, according to these guys? Well, get rid of Israel, Hamas will take over, and then you get this Christian utopia. What sort of fantasy land are you living in? Like how? How can you think that? How can you think that Israel is the main problem and Hamas is just a reaction? And so if you get rid of Israel, everything's going to be great and Muslims are going to control it and they're going to be super, super nice to Christians. Where are you getting that insane idea?
Exactly. I don't know. It's ridiculous. It's not really like I was shocked, to be honest. When I read it, I was shocked myself.
Yeah. Wow.
Would you have expected this coming from that side of the world where Christians are persecuted? They don't have freedom of speech. They don't have freedom even to go to the streets and preach the gospel to Muslims. And yet they are not paying attention to that essential right. They are writing Christians in the West to repent.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really, really wild stuff. And I've told you, and I've mentioned this before, to all of you who put out that letter, I actually understand you. I actually understand your thinking and the situation you're in better than the vast majority of Christians in the West would, because I have been in a situation that, keep in mind, it's significantly different. It's significantly different, but there is a parallel there, and that is I've been to prison. I spent years in prison. And how is this similar? Well, I've explained it before, but in prison. So I started off. I was an atheist when I went to jail. I became a Christian there, so I was eventually a Christian in prison. And in prison, you have Muslims, you have Christians, you have atheists, and so on. You have a bunch of different people from a bunch of different backgrounds. And you don't get along with lots of people. There are constantly fights. People are stabbing each other, smashing people's faces in with locks and so on. But at the end of the day, that's our community, and the guards and the administration and the courts and the judges and so on, they have a kind of power over us where you feel kind of helpless in the face of it. In the sense that if a guard wants to come in and just bust your head open, he could do that and he could get away with it because it would be your word versus his and so on. And so you end up with this situation where, hey, I may not get along with this guy in the same dorm, but you don't snitch on that guy, because that would be throwing your own community under the bus and trying to win favor with guys who can come in and oppress you at will. Right. So one, just the power dynamic. The power dynamic makes you feel like they are the enemy. And keep in mind, I'm saying this as a guy who had repented of some extremely bad things. I knew I belonged in there. It wasn't, oh, I'm innocent and I don't belong in here. I understood that I belonged in prison. I had time to serve. And within that community, there are horribly evil people. There are like sick, evil people in there. There are some people who are some of the nicest people you've ever met. They just did like one stupid thing and went to prison. Like, in other words, they were living completely normal lives, doing their jobs, paying their taxes, raising their family, and did something bad at some point. Even like got into a fight and hit a guy too hard and broke the guy's face or something like this. And they end up in prison. But otherwise, they're really nice people. So you have a complete spectrum of people. You have really, really terrible people in there. You have really, really nice people in there. They're all mixed together, but for everyone, even if you understand, like I understood, hey, there's a purpose for prisons. You need prisons for people like me back then. You need prisons, you need guards, you need police officers, you need judges, you need all of this stuff. Still, just this power there's this power difference where they can come in and they just have complete power over you in that situation. You just constantly feel like they're the enemies. They're the bad guys. And they're the bad guys. And they're worse than this guy who would stab me in the face if I said something wrong to him. Right? So that's the situation. But in addition to that, because you're talking about human beings, and some human beings, even those who are on the side of justice, they work for the system. They're guards of the system. You end up with, like, sometimes you have bad people who have that position of power, and you'll have a guard who, if he doesn't like you, he'll lie about you. He will he'll do all kinds of things. And then in your mind, it's like, whoa, this guard, who, keep in mind, the other guards may be completely fine, but this one is actually evil. He gets off on it. He likes having power over that, and he abuses that power. In your mind, it's, oh, you see, this system keeps this bad guy in a position of power over us to come and harm us. So the point is, I know what that's like. Hey, there's this other group over here that has power over us, and they can abuse it. And so this is actually my community: Christians, Muslims, nice guys, really bad guys, but we are all one community, and it's them that can oppress us at will. I know what that feels like. So I can actually understand if you're a Christian and you're in an area and you've got Muslims and Christians and a few other groups and so on there, and you're in a position where when some Hamas terrorist goes and just fires a rocket from your area, he fires a rocket, Israel gets to come and crush you. Israel can crush you with a retaliatory strike, might even hit your church or something like this. And who stands out to you? Not these guys, It's Israel. Look, they're the ones that just destroyed my church. Why? Because this guy did an attack? Yeah, but still, they have the power. They have this power to come and just wreak havoc on my life. So I get that. But when you're saying Israel's the cause of all the problems and Israel needs to be just wiped off the map and taken over, it comes across to me like along the same lines as abolish the police.
Yeah.
Like abolish the police, because people have that idea, right? They've had bad experience. That's happened. I've had bad experiences with police officers and correctional officers too, where I'm not talking about just they caught me or something. I'm talking about actual evil people in positions of power. And then you think the whole system is screwed up, and you think, okay, well, what happens? Get rid of the whole system. And you think, well, guess what? That makes sense. And people, for those of you who wrote that letter, you may not be familiar with this, but in the West, you've had people who had bad experiences with cops and cops abusing their power and cops doing messed up things. And so they thought, hey, the solution is abolish the police or defund the police. And then they do that and you end up with a disaster. Why? Because you're not paying attention to the fact that police and the government and so on.
The global image.
Yeah.
You're focusing on your own experience and making it, generalizing it and making it as an excuse to abolish the whole system. But you're not focusing, if you do that, what's going to happen later?
Yeah, we've seen what keeps happening, right? People, we'll defund the police, and then crime skyrockets, and all these people. Guess what? You weren't thinking about that. You were just thinking, I've had bad experiences with police officers, and I don't like police officers having this authority over me. So let's do something great and get rid of them. And then what happens? disaster. Because those police officers, even though the power they have over you, that can be bad, and even though you have some bad apples among them and so on, they're still doing something very important to keep a stable society. And that's kind of how I view
So
Israel. That you could have a bad IDF soldier, you could have a rocket that misfires and hits something that's important or something like that. You can have all those situations. What Israel is actually doing in the area and in the world, I think it's way more than you guys realize. And if you took them out, I think you would end with a complete, utter, total disaster. That's my view.
so let me ask you, David, after reading this letter, and do you feel that you want to repent?
No, not a bit. That did not cause me to want to repent at all. And what's crazy is, I mean, I think they could have treated that completely differently, written it in a way to call out Christians for not doing more to help. But I mean, guess what? I'm sure there are legitimate ways to help Christians in Gaza and the West Bank. It's just that is like the worst. I mean, I can't imagine a worse appeal to get Christians in the West to repent. Talking, oh, look, you guys support bombing Hiroshima and Nagasaki and subjugating an apartheid in South Africa, and you still have that mindset. You see, this is what you're doing here, like guilt tripping people like that, when it's like that's not our thinking at all. This weird stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's just weird stuff. Can we jump to the next one? So that was the beginning in October, and then in August 5th,
So that's
they
this
came
this
up.
month.
Yeah, this month.
Yeah.
The same people with others, and they try to come up with something bigger, a collective call to the global church. And this is like not just like a petition. This is a collective call to the global church worldwide from Middle Eastern evangelical leaders. Somebody
church.
went to them. Yeah, somebody probably went to them and he said, "Hey, you didn't do a great job. Let's rewrite another one. It's a nicer one. It's a better one, and we will pitch it to the whole to Christians in the Middle East." Let me remind you that in the West. Let me remind you the goal of this is to convince Christians to not support Israel in a way that they will voice their voices in support of Israel to the right to exist or right to defend itself. They need to voice, they need to use their churches, their platforms to say that Israel is committing genocide. It's not and they are occupying the land, and they are. The churches will say we are with the Palestinians, we are with the other side.
Mm-hmm. And so these are the signers to this. Here, it's not just the organizations, it's specific people in the organizations. But yeah.
Some of them live in the US, some of them in Canada, but most of them, half of them are Palestinians in origin.
All right, so a collective call, and again, this came out this month. So this just came out like 2 weeks ago. A collective call to the global church from Middle East evangelical leaders. And I agree with you, Brother Rachid, this is way more sanely written than the other. In other words, this is a much better appeal to Christians than that other, whatever you can call that. I don't even know what to call that. That was a dumpster fire of a letter, possibly the worst letter I've ever written. Again, guys, I'm not trying to, I understand you guys are in some rough situations. I understand that. But I don't even know what to say at this point. But this is better. This is better. Let's see. Introduction. We, Palestinian, Egyptian, Jordanian, Lebanese, Syrian, and Iraqi evangelical leaders representing various churches and Christian ministries, warmly invite our brothers and sisters in the global church to engage with us. Happy to do that. Listen to our stories. Would love to do that. Even if you're telling stories about horrible experiences with the IDF or whatever, happy to listen to you. And together acknowledge the power of unity and the gospel to transform our broken and divided region. We extend this invitation as a reflection of our steadfast commitment to the gospel and our ongoing efforts to make significant contributions to the lives of millions of people across the Middle East. We deeply appreciate the legacy of Western missionaries who arrived nearly 2 centuries ago to help us deepen our spiritual heritage, and we honor the faithfulness of those serving today. Together, we aspire for our churches in the Middle East to reclaim our historic role as centers of outreach. Today, we renew our invitation to the global church family to engage and unite with us to achieve that vision. Hey, Brother Rachid, from the perspective of rhetoric and basically making a case, this is already a much better way to make a case. This is called the I don't remember how this ended, but this is called the sandwich method.
Yeah.
Namely, if you're going to criticize or make an appeal, sandwich it between some praising people, right? It just makes it easier. Instead of the other one, it's sandwiched it between a bunch of accusations and insults and shame on you, shame on you, shame on you. You're evil. Western Christians are evil, and you believe in subjugating the entire world.
That's true. That's true. So it's a good introduction. I like it.
All right, so we've got that. Our commitment to unity. Although our goal to extend God's love to all people is united, a discernible missional gap exists between the Western Church and the Middle Eastern Church, reflecting our unaligned mission priorities. This divide contradicts our collective identity as one body in Christ. We know that unity is not merely an aspiration, but a living divine mandate. Unity honors God and demonstrates the validity of the gospel as we strive to fulfill the Great Commission. We urge Christians around the globe to come to the Middle East, not only to visit the ancient biblical sites and relics of the past, but to come and engage with the living stones of the Middle East, a faithful community of believers who have maintained their presence in this region for over 2 millennia. This is an awesome way to start, Brother Rachid.
Yes, I agree.
And so you started off by saying, hey, we thank Western Christians for sending missionaries starting 2 centuries ago. And we thank you and appreciate the work that you've done. And hey, guys, did you know that we're supposed to be united as Christians? And hey, there are Christians here in the Middle East who've been standing their ground and standing strong for 2,000 years. And that's true. I mean, keep in mind, these guys have gone through it. Christians in the Middle East have been conquered, oppressed, had their kids kidnapped and forcibly converted. And there are Christian communities there that are still standing strong after centuries. That is something that we should take note of. Our commitment to peace. We affirm our priority to love God and our neighbors, all of whom are equally created in the image of God. Our deep conviction is to love our Muslim and Jewish neighbors. Much better than the other letter. We assert that the conflicts in the Middle East, including the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, are not manifestations of spiritual warfare. Not entirely sure about that. I definitely think spiritual warfare has something to do with it.
Yeah, I had the same reaction. I was waiting for you. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I think they could fix this just by adding the word merely or only or solely, right?
Yeah.
Are not simply manifestations of spiritual warfare. In other words, that spiritual warfare can be one component. Yeah, are not manifestations of spiritual warfare, but are instead rooted in complex socio-political dynamics that demand nuanced understanding and strategic responses. We unequivocally reject all forms of violence against civilians to achieve justice and strongly condemn all religious, political, and social ideologies that hinder a lasting peace, including anti-Semitism. Oh boy, here's the sentence. And strongly condemn all religious, political, and social ideologies that hinder a lasting peace, including anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and Christian Zionism. You guys just lost me. You had a great start, and you just lost me.
So they put on the same level anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and Christian Zionism. We condemn all of them because they are all the same.
That is terrible, guys. So a couple things here. So anti-Semitism, right? So anti-Semitism, that just, I mean, people can get technical with the root meaning of what the word was. We know what the term anti-Semitism, how that's used. That's used for hating Jews just for being Jews, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Islamophobia. Islamophobia. When we hear Islamophobia, it's because we're criticizing Islam. I mean, Brother Rachid, you were told in a debate against two Muslims that if they get their way, they're going to execute you.
They will chop my head.
They're going to chop your head off. And yet, when they talked about you, they said, we debated the Islamophobes. They're accusing you and Robert Spencer of Islamophobia. These guys acknowledge that they would execute both of you. They would kill both of you. And when they call you Islamophobes for not wanting to be killed.
Because I have a phobia. I don't have a reasonable fear to fear that my head will be chopped. That's not a reasonable fear.
So that's
I should not criticize Islam, because Islam is a very nice religion, and nobody should be afraid of Islam. We have some phobias. The irony, some of the people who signed this document are doctors, physical doctors. They are doctors, and yet they diagnosed us as having phobia.
Yeah, it's like I can't even think about all the good work you did in the beginning part of this letter, because the train went off the rails right here. The train completely went off the rails. The train went off the rails, off the bridge, and crashed into the river beneath with this. Anti-Semitism, again, is hating Jews just for being Jews. Islamophobia is used just of disagreeing with anything in Islam, or of having a problem with the death penalty for apostasy, or of
or chopping hands.
Yeah, or having a problem with child marriage. Any of these things. In other words, Islamophobia is just used. It's so weird that people fall for this, because it's so insanely stupid. You have all kinds of issues in Islam calling for the death penalty for apostates, killing anyone for the crime of blasphemy, violently subjugating Jews and Christians, offering non-Jews and non-Muslims, non-Christians the option either convert or die. But the ultimate goal is to violently subjugate the entire world. And if you have any problem with Islam successfully slaughtering you, or violently subjugating the entire world, or bringing back child marriage, and so if you have any problem with any of that, they call you an Islamophobe. So when you lump that together with anti-Semitism, just hating Jews just because of who they are, you already sound completely untrustworthy. This is weird. Go ahead.
And Christian Zionism. So if you hate the Jews for just being a Jew, it's the same as supporting Israel's right to exist and defend itself. So Christian Zionism and anti-Semitism are on the same level. We should condemn both of them. Do you see the irony here?
Yeah, this is really, really wild stuff here. Christian Zionism. So again, you can have theological Zionism, which is Jews have God's divine stamp of approval to control the land. I've said that's not how I'm thinking, but I still qualify as a Christian Zionist, just because I believe that Israel has a right to exist and to defend itself against terrorists. That makes me a Christian Zionist. So me saying, guys, if you haven't absorbed how messed up this is, and why I'm looking at this saying everything went off the rails with this, me saying, hey, there's a nation, it's called Israel. They're surrounded by a lot of people who want to kill and annihilate them. When terrorists come and attack them, Israel has the right to hunt down those terrorists and to get their hostages back. They're saying that is the same thing as being an anti-Semite. I mean, it's in the same ballpark. It's part of a system of hatred, and it's part of what hinders a lasting peace. So me saying that Israel has a right to defend itself, that's something that hinders lasting peace. So what should I say? What am I supposed to say? Israel has to be wiped out?
Do you know
Is that the
bother,
path to lasting peace?
what bothers me in this? These 21 Christian leaders from the Middle East, they never wrote anything to condemn what happened to Christians in Iraq when ISIS kicked them out. They never saw that as a problem. At least they never voiced their voice and wrote a petition or anything similar to this. They never condemned Christians in Libya right now are on death row just for converting from Islam to Christianity. They never asked Libya to release those people. They never condemned what Egypt does to people who convert to Christianity. They never condemned the lack of freedom of religion in Muslim countries, yet they are condemning Islamophobia. This is insane. Can you imagine Christian leaders not talking about the right to distribute Bibles, to distribute pamphlets? We have the right. For example, in Morocco, we can't even have a church for Moroccan Christians. We have church for foreigners, but no church for Moroccan Christians. We cannot even baptize people publicly because we'll be attacked. So they never voiced their concerns for us. They voiced their concern for Islamophobia. This is insane. This is mind-blowing.
Yeah, guys, those of you who write this letter, you might want to send it to us before you post it next time, because we can tell you the parts that we're just going to go, whoa! And it doesn't matter how much you sandwich it between a bunch of praising people and so on. When you lump together anti-Semites with Islamophobes, so people who don't want to be violently subjugated and don't want their heads chopped off, and Christian Zionists, so people who say that Israel has a right to exist and defend itself, and you lump all those together, you just lost us. You just lost us. So we could have helped you with that. As citizens of our nations, we believe we are called to speak the truth and pray for those in authority so we can live in peace. And again, guys, what they just said was, if you believe that Israel has a right to exist, you're part of the problem and an obstacle to peace. So what does that mean? Think through it. Think through it. What does that mean? It means you should not believe that Israel has a right to exist, or that Israel doesn't have a right to defend itself against terrorist attacks, and that is the path to peace. So the path to peace is wiping out Israel, or Israel ceasing to exist, or Israel never defending itself against terrorist attacks. That's the path to peace. I don't view that as a path to peace. I mean, you might have to flesh it out, but explain to me how that is a path to peace. When you say our path to peace is getting rid of Jews, okay. But now you're not sounding like someone I want to be on the same page with. Our allegiance is to the gospel, untainted by political affiliations and grounded in the love of Christ through peacemaking. We assert the indispensable role of the global church in championing peace. Me too. We urge all believers to listen to the discourse of Christians in the Middle East who have resiliently held to their faith in Christ in austere environments. We ask our fellow Christ followers to engage with the diverse and seemingly contrasting perspectives that emanate from our region. If they'd taken out that one sentence, we'd be really good right now. Our commitment to the Great Commission. Our mission is anchored in the Great Commission. We affirm that God's redemptive love extends to every person, transcending all cultural, ethnic, and religious backgrounds. We recognize that endeavors influenced by geopolitical, economic, or other external agendas are often perceived as manipulative and frequently exploit the Bible for political purposes.
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah, guess what? People do exploit the Bible for political purposes, but that kind of sounds like what you're doing right now.
Keep going, keep going. It's coming.
Consequently, many people in our region reject our message of Christ's love because these influences resemble the methods and attitudes of historical, here we're back to the colonial rule. Colonial rule, guys, what was the colonial rule? I mean, you were conquered by Muslims. You were conquered by Muslims. Oh boy. Which have had a largely negative impact on the Middle East for centuries. Such influences serve as a stumbling block and impede the Great Commission in our nations. We passionately...
Let's stop here.
Okay.
So they are saying the problem uh, that is stopping us from preaching the gospel to Muslims in the Middle East is you guys interpret the Bible as Christians in the West. You interpret the Bible in a political way that put us in a difficult situation. We cannot preach the gospel because it comes with colonialism or a colonialist worldview. So that's why Muslims are not accepting the gospel.
Yeah,
See,
that's why,
see,
right?
see yeah.
Other than that, right? It's not because you proclaim Jesus died on the cross for sins and rose from the dead and he's Lord and God is
No.
triune and because as Muslims you've been commanded to violently subjugate us and silence us and never accept the gospel because accepting the gospel, accepting Jesus Christ as Lord would be the unforgivable sin of shirk, and you've been programmed from the day you were born to understand that leaving Islam would be a death sentence. You would have to give up your community, you would be sentenced to death, and you would spend eternity in hell. That's not why people have a problem with the gospel. It's because of your colonialism.
Yes. Can you imagine? It's not because you cannot preach the gospel in any Muslim country first. You will be in jail. Those pastors, you cannot go to the streets of Cairo and preach the gospel to Muslims, or the streets of Damascus, or the streets of Baghdad. They will be attacked. They will be taken to jail. That's the least. Probably they will be killed in the streets. So that's not the problem. The problem is the West.
So this is kind of saying the same thing the other letter was saying. It's just they've
They
updated
worded
their
it better.
language. They've updated their language significantly and used some better communication tactics.
That's exactly what happened.
Okay, so they're doing the exact. So guys, this is weird. It's weird to say, but as even though this letter is so significantly better, that kind of makes it worse because they're saying the same thing and they just said it in a much more persuasive fashion. So that actually kind of makes it worse, and that they could actually get more traction with this. So what are they saying? That I mean, tons of people are pointing out that Islam's colonialism. Right? Muhammad said what? Muhammad said, "I will expel the Jews and Christians from the Arabian Peninsula and will not leave any but Muslims." And he said that he has been shown the east of the east and the west of the west, and was shown by Allah that Islam will dominate everything that he saw, the entire world.
Exactly.
They're
And
commanded to fight until all religion is for Allah. They are here to subjugate the entire world. And you're telling me that their objection to the gospel is colonialism. Are
yeah,
you kidding me?
and the problem is Westerners,
Yeah.
Westerner Christians. Not that Muslims converted many churches to mosques, not that they destroyed many churches through history, not they killed so many Christian priests and clerics and all kind of uh, the people who used to know the Bible and preach it in North Africa and others. No, it's because Christian Christians in the West interpret the Bible in a political way.
Yeah, and why did Islam swarm out of Arabia and conquer, what is it, like 4/5 of Christian lands? Why did they do that? Because of
Mhm.
their problem with colonialism, their objection with colonialism. And so they decided that they have to conquer all Christian lands in the entire world to deal with this problem of colonialism. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Everything is the fault of Western Christians and their colonialism. Like, are you? Wow. And again, it's actually more of a problem that this letter is much better written because I don't know. Maybe there's something. Maybe there's some redeeming quality. Let's keep going here. We passionately call upon the global church to join with us. I'm not joining with you. I'm not joining with you. If you're lumping Zionism, Islamophobia, and anti-Semitism together as the problems, and saying that if I say Israel has a right to exist and defend itself, I'm blocking the path to peace, and that I therefore have to say Israel has no right to exist and must be wiped off the map. Not on board. We passionately call upon the global church to join with us in dialogue and collaboration to focus with one single vision on the transformative power of the gospel in our region. How do you think that's going to work? You get rid of Israel and then Hamas is in control. How effective do you think the gospel is going to be in your area? And in your minds, it's like, well, yeah, but then we dealt with the problem of colonialism, so that will get the problem of colonialism out of the way. Right. And then you're stuck with the real world where they have a problem with the gospel just because it's the gospel and they serve a false prophet. Our commitment in times of war. As followers of Christ in the Middle East, we mourn with all who endure suffering in Palestine and Israel or any other nation. That's good. We call upon all believers in the West to unite with us. Can't do it when you're telling us that we have to believe that Israel has to be wiped off the map. Can't do it. We call upon believers in the West to unite with us and the broader global church to proclaim the gospel of peace over declarations of war. I mean, they mentioned using the Bible, weaponizing the Bible for political agenda. Guys, it really sounds like calling upon believers calling upon the believers in the West to unite with us and the broader global church to proclaim the gospel of peace over declarations of war. It sounds like you're saying we want peace and therefore Israel can't defend itself because that would be violent. They would have to use violence to defend themselves. Something along that. It sounds like that's the direction you're going with this. We acknowledge the diverse responses within the Western Church, humbly recognizing both the shortcomings of many evangelicals, our shortcomings here, recognizing both the shortcomings of many evangelicals in failing to support our Palestinian siblings and the Palestinian people during their hardships, and the faithfulness of others who have expressed God's love in real and tangible ways. Rejecting extreme religious ideologies, we commit to advocate for peace and compassion in accordance with Christ's teachings and biblical principles. The devastating crisis in Palestine, characterized by mass civilian deaths and famine in Gaza, has resulted in immense suffering, particularly among women and children. This requires compassion from the global Christian community. True, Christians are going to have to deal with the aftermath of this situation. We cannot remain silent in the face of these stark realities. We lament the silence and at times support of some church leaders within the Western Church regarding the actions in Gaza. Actions that have been labeled as plausible genocide.
Okay.
Just lost us again. By the International Criminal Court, human rights groups, and an increasing number of nations.
But nothing about Hamas.
Yeah, guys, Hamas in their charter said that their goal is to wipe out Jews in obedience to Muhammad. Genocide, again, look at any actual genocide in history. Look at the statistics on the population of the group that is being genocided. It plummets. The population plummets. Why? Because they're being wiped out. Look at statistics on the population in Gaza and the West Bank. It's skyrocketing. It's skyrocketing. I'll say it again. If Israel, when they go after Hamas, who are hiding behind and among and under civilians, if the goal of the IDF is genocide, they're the worst in the world. They're the worst in the world at it. Why? They have one of the best civilian to combatant death ratios ever, because they're being extremely careful. If they wanted to wipe you out and they're not, they're just doing a terrible, terrible job of it. So to call this genocide, it's the same thing with the other letter that will appeal to a certain kind of person, but anyone who knows what a genocide is or has been following this war at all, you just lost them. If you didn't lose them with what you said about Islamophobia and lumping it together with anti-Semitism.
And they are not mentioning that Hamas committed war crimes by kidnapping civilians and killing them and torturing them and all that, and burning some of them. They never mentioned that. They just mentioned the reaction to what Hamas did.
Yeah, again, guys, I mean, how do you take it seriously when you put all the blame on Israel? Like how? Anyway. We urge accountability and call for an immediate ceasefire, the release of all hostages. That's good. They're calling for the release of all hostages and the unrestrained flow of aid into Gaza. We further call for understanding and addressing the root causes of the 76-year conflict. I'm in favor of addressing the root causes. It's just those root causes do not help the case of Hamas. They actually expose that. They actually expose the case. They expose it as nonsense. and addressing the root causes of the 76-year conflict between the Palestinians and Israelis. Holding on to hope, we pray for comfort for all affected and affirm our commitment to peacemaking. So you have an issue there, Brother Rachid, with the call for an immediate ceasefire. So immediate ceasefire, ladies and gentlemen, would mean stop the fighting right now.
Yeah.
And there's a problem. Go ahead.
I want to just mention some details. Three or four, according to my sources, of the people who signed this letter, they have Israeli passports. So they are calling for not to support Israel, yet they're using Israel's passport to go to, because they get to enter Europe and the US without visa. So they are using, and they don't want to recognize Israel as a state. Mm-hmm. And that makes me laugh, because if you really stick to your principles, burn that passport, do not use it.
Yeah, and as far as calls for an immediate ceasefire, keep in mind, guys, people who are calling for an immediate ceasefire, I believe you're wrong. I don't believe you're insane. I just think you don't understand the situation. Because you could say, look, people are dying, right? You need a ceasefire. Okay, well, that makes sense in people's minds. Ceasefire. Ceasefire will stop this bombing and so on. And they're not thinking the long-term implications. Because when you say ceasefire now, what did Hamas do? What did Hamas do on October 7th? They ran and killed a bunch of people, took a bunch of hostages, and then ran and hid among civilians. This is eventually going to be over, and there's going to be the takeaway message that you sent to the world. What message does Israel want to send to future generations of jihadis? What's the takeaway message that they want for future generations of jihadis who want to go and kill Jews? The message that they're trying to send is, do not think that you can escape. Do not think that you can come, kill a bunch of our people, take a bunch of hostages, and then run and hide for a while, and then we're going to give up and let you go. Because if you do that, if you say, hey, come kill a bunch of our people and then run and hide among civilians, and then we won't come after you because we don't want to hurt any civilians. If that's the message that Israel sends, you basically just said, hey, open invitation to anyone who wants to kill us. All you have to do, come kill a bunch of us and then run and hide among civilians, and we won't come and get you because we want the ceasefire. Christians want the ceasefire. Is that a good message for the long term? That is a horrible, 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 completely horrible, disastrous message that encourages this endless cycle of violence. And it's just, you're basically saying, anyone who wants to kill, go kill, and then run and hide among civilians, you get a free pass. As long as you go hide among civilians, you get a free pass to kill as many people as you want. Do you want that message to be absorbed by Muslims around the world? In other words, if you're in the UK and you're a Muslim and you go kill a bunch of people, you can just run and hide and they're not going to come after you. Is that the message you want to send? So that's the problem. What you're saying right now, immediate ceasefire. So immediate ceasefire before Israel has hunted down the Hamas jihadis who killed their people. In other words, the remaining Hamas jihadis and leaders go free. Is that a good idea? No, you sent a message. You sent a very bad message to them and actually encouraged them. Whereas if you relentlessly pursue them until you've hunted down every single last Hamas jihadi who had anything to do with the attack, you send there's going to be more deaths in the short term. There's going to be more deaths now because you're going in and hunting these guys down. In the long term, you have sent a message to future generations of jihadis. You're not going to escape. Under no circumstances will you escape. If you kill a bunch of our people, we don't care if you go hide on Mars. We're going to go jump on a ship, go there, and we're going to hunt you down. There's no scenario where you escape this alive. That's a different sort of message. So I've said that Islam puts people in this situation where it doesn't matter what you do, there's a bad outcome. That's what I'm saying. Continuing the fight, that's a bad outcome. People are going to die. Ceasefire, that's also a bad outcome. There's no perfect ideal outcome here. But I have to say, just saying instant ceasefire when what you're really saying is let Hamas go, let them off the hook, that doesn't seem like that's a path to peace. It doesn't seem like that's going to lead to future peace. It seems like that's going to lead to more terrorist attacks.
True.
And here we have, here's the end. We're at the end already.
Yep.
Our invitation to you. We extend a sincere invitation to our brothers and sisters across the globe to join us in a mission that transcends any ethnic, political, or theological divides. I'd be happy to do that if we didn't kind of get a glimpse of what you're saying. Please come and stand alongside us and join what God is doing in our midst. Come and witness the power of the gospel alive in the Middle East. Participate in bridging divides, in initiatives that heal wounds, and in partnerships that extend the kingdom of God. Our mission fields are ripe with opportunities for those who seek to serve alongside us and to learn from the enduring strength and faith of our churches. Let us together create a spiritual future where the Middle East is seen not through the lens of its conflicts, but as a model of an enduring, Christ-honoring church. And you think that Islam taking over is the way to do that? Today is the day of opportunity to advance the Great Commission in one of the most historically significant places on earth. Together, we can write the next chapter of God's story in our region, one that honors our one true faith and looks forward to a future filled with hope and peace. Together, we can demonstrate to our fractured world the power of our Christian unity. Together, we can shape the Middle East into a vibrant epicenter of outreach. This is our invitation. Please come be part of this living history. If we hadn't just read what you meant by all of this, would have been happy. After reading what you're actually saying, gotta say no.
What bothers me here, they are saying two contradictory things. Come together, but in the same time, when they are fighting Islamophobia, they are fighting people like you and me who are telling people that Islam is a terrible ideology, is a terrible religion. If Islam is controlling any land, it will kill people. It will turn it to like Afghanistan, like Raqqa in Syria, like ISIS, like Al-Qaeda. They are fighting people like you and me, but in the same time, they are saying, let's come together. Let's have the great commission. How are you going to do that? And by the way, all 1400 years, there is no mission that succeeded among Muslims similar to the ones that exposed Islam and showed people the love of Christ in the same time. There is no parallel mission that succeeded. They are trying to fight this mission. They are trying to call us as Islamophobes, like the Muslims do.
And that is just absolutely disastrous, right? When you label critics of Islam Islamophobes, which they just did, they tossed that around, the Islamophobes. And you're saying, here's this better way. It reminds me, Brother Rachid, it reminds me of Christians. I'm sure you've experienced this. I experienced it a ton, fortunately not so much anymore. But 15 years ago, when I would criticize Islam, I got blasted by Christians. Don't ever criticize Islam. Don't ever do that. You're just going to hurt their feelings. And that's not the way forward. And it's just like, that's not how this works. It doesn't work like that. Blasting away at Islam needs to go hand in hand with preaching the gospel, because if someone thinks they've got this airtight case for Islam, why are they going to take the gospel seriously? If they think they have an airtight case for Islam and that Muhammad is obviously a true prophet, and then you preach the gospel to them, telling them to do the worst possible sin in Islam, which is say Jesus is Lord, that's not someone who's going to accept the gospel. And that's why we see so many people leaving Islam and coming to Christ now, because we're doing both. And so when you jump on the Islamophobia bandwagon and start saying, oh, we got to do something about Islamophobia, and we just preach love and get rid of Israel, and then everything's going to be great, and that'll be the path to peace. As far as what they're actually recommending doing, I don't see anything there. I don't see anything there that is something I would want to join it. If you say, hey, support Palestinian Christians, everyone try to get on the same page, come up with something. I agree with all of that. When your solution is deny Israel's right to exist, deny Israel's right to defend itself, and just we'll all, once we do that, then everything's going to be fine. You're looking at it going, are you kidding me?
Yep.
You're more comfortable with Hamas. You're more comfortable with terrorist organizations controlling that area and having power over Christians. That's your solution. No thanks.
And also like Christian Zionism. So you are trying to, most of the Christians in America are Christian Zionists in their view. I mean, they are supporting Israel. Most of Christians in the West are supportive of Israel's right to exist and defend itself. So if you are calling them Christian Zionists and putting it in the same phrase with anti-Semitism, then you lost them. Nobody. I think myself. I think we should hold these Christian leaders responsible for what they say. They are used to say things without being held responsible. So I think Christians who are donating to them, churches who are donating to them, they need to be careful where their money goes to, because they are teaching, even in the Bethlehem Biblical College, they are teaching something called Palestinian theology. And when I read the curriculum and the books, I got shocked how somebody can support such a theology. The theology basically says, take the Jewishness of the Bible, replace it with a Palestinian thing. For example, do not say Jerusalem, say Al-Quds, which is an Islamic term. Do not say Christ was an Israeli. They say it explicitly. He was Palestinian. Mary was Palestinian. The first church was Palestinian. So they are the same guys who initiated this letter. They are teaching in Bethlehem Bible College these same doctrines. And I'm just shocked. And I said, who supports this? Who does send them money to teach this theology? Are they aware of their theology? Somebody translated to them the curriculum or not? They have been probably deceived? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a man. It's a rough situation because you do want to do
It
everything
is.
you can to help Palestinian Christians, but you've got the leaders of the groups and the churches and the organizations and so on, and you got some serious problems here. And all these guys, I mean, these organizations and churches and so on, and schools are being funded by Western Christians who are,
Sure.
according to them, the source of the problem. We're the source of the problem.
Yep.
This is wild stuff. This is wild stuff. All right. Going to go through some super chats. Brother Rachid, I don't know what your schedule is like. If you have to take off, you could take off. I'm going to go through some super chats. If you want to hang out, we can hang out and answer them.
Just for 5-10 minutes, and
Okay.
I'll leave.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Hi, guys. I live in pretty close proximity to Dearborn, unfortunately, and run into a lot of Muslims. Do you have any videos or resources directed at them to help bring them to Christianity? I had a
You have
video.
videos.
Yeah, we have lots of
David.
videos. Yeah, going through. So one, you want to prepare for arguments that you know they're going to use. You want to prepare for responses to their objections to Christianity and so on. So those kinds of things. We have lots of videos on that. By way of introduction, this was on my old channel, which I deleted most of the content and gave to Hatun, but you can still find it in archive channels. In fact, if anyone wants to share it here, matter of fact, I'll go ahead and look it up while we're answering. But I have a video that I made a long time ago. Well, no, it was a few years ago, called "How to Share Unpleasant Facts with Pleasant Muslims," and that's where they're debate situations, and then there are friendly conversation situations. And so I made a video because people watch my videos and see me blasting away at Muhammad. They're like, that's what I'm going to do in a situation. Well, you might not want to do that. You might not want to start blasting about Aisha or something like that in a discussion with a Muslim. So I actually have a video. How to share unpleasant facts with pleasant Muslims. I'm looking it up on one of the archive channels. Okay, I've got it on the archive channel. This would be a good sort of overview, to what I think is a good approach. And that's start off asking lots of questions of the Muslim. What do you believe about this? What do you believe about God? What do you believe about Jesus? What do you believe about the Bible? What do you believe about the Quran, and so on? And then transitioning at some point into why questions. Why do you believe these things? And then you have that person's particular reasons for believing these things, and then you can start investigating and researching those particular objections. So anyway, this is designed for situations where you don't want things to escalate or become hostile or so on, but you can still get the exact same information across. Anything you want to point to, Rachid, or?
I think it's good. Also, I think we did. I want people to be aware of this. We did on my channel some videos together, unveiling Islam. Probably you need to go through them and understand at least some facts about Islam so you can be prepared for any discussion.
Yeah, so those are videos with me and Rachid, and yeah, we go through so far in that series, we've been going through a lot of their main arguments and so on, and
Yeah.
showing some of the problems. So anyway, it's good material to go through with your Muslim friend. Let's see. Do you have or can you make a cheat sheet document of quotes with hyperlinks to sources on common topics we can save to our phones for easy reference? I've thought about that for years, like actually coming up with like a deck of cards or flashcards or something like that, where you've got the Dawah script on one side and you flip it over and it's got the responses and the verses to go to refute it. But no, I don't have anything like that. But it is good. I've been thinking about that for years. I've had requests for that for years. I've just never actually put it all together.
That's really good. A good idea.
Every time the media props up a Palestinian Christian who shills for Hamas, and I check the social media, it's a liberation theologian.
Yes.
Let's see. As a native Palestinian wingaling, I call on Brother Rachid to repent for occupying indigenous Arab Moroccan land as a kuffar who doesn't cook falafel.
The problem is when I did my DNA, found out I'm a Berber, so I am the one who was being occupied.
Yeah, in your face, Sheikh Mike Wingelinge. Islama careless is Islamallah careless. I don't know what that means. Let's see. Just wanted to send love and say keep going. Yes, we will. We will keep going. Is this what happens when Palestinian Muslims convert to Christianity but don't lose their cultural programming about Jews and the West? Yeah, you could have someone who leaves Islam and then still has the same attitude towards Jews. That could happen. I've seen most of the time I see the reverse. It's when someone leaves Islam, suddenly they aren't nearly as hostile towards Jews anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have seen many Muslim converts to Christianity. They kind of got rid of their hatred towards Jews because it's associated with their previous faith. So they kind of healed from it. Not everybody, but I have seen a quite good number.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't think this is the result of Muslims converting to Christianity and not being able to lose their programming about Jews. I do think it's more similar to what I was talking about before. You grow up in an environment where you're the minority and the majority really hate Israel. And keep in mind, I mean, if you're a Palestinian Christian, you have stories about things that Israel did to you or your family at some point. So that's understandable. And it's even understandable, but this is our main issue that keeps coming up is they're not saying a word of criticism about Hamas. Keep in mind, you can even understand that, right? If you're a Palestinian Christian living in Gaza, do you want to criticize Hamas? Do you want to say a word about Hamas? And the result is that you have to write letters putting all the blame on Israel and on Western Christians. And you can't assign any blame to them because these guys will chop your heads off. And so we can sit there and understand the situation, but what that means is because of the situation you're in, you're not giving a fair representation of the situation because you can't. You might get killed. So you can actually sympathize with them and say, okay, I understand why you're not calling out Hamas. Christians would be in a very dangerous spot. But we also who are reading the letter have to be aware of that and say, okay, this is not the most balanced presentation. They're not allowed to give a balanced presentation. And that's part of the problem with Islam. And that's part of the problem why we don't think it's a good idea for Hamas to take over, is because then everyone's going to be in a situation where everyone has to keep their mouths shut about this.
Yep.
Not a good situation. Here's a question for you. Brother Rachid, I'm Israeli and curious. Do Christian Arabs better understand the significance of Saturday comes before Sunday after October 7th? When we're all dead, what do they do to you?
Some do understand it, but others they are living in a delusional thinking that this will never happen. I heard these stories from Iraqis. It never occurred to their mind that their neighbors will side with ISIS when they will come in, and they did. Even the Yazidis, they never thought that their neighbors will do the same thing. So sometimes you live in a denial. Even when you hear things, you think, no, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, so the idea, guys, is there's a saying, Saturday comes before Sunday. And the meaning is we deal with the Jews first, then we deal with the Christians. We take out the Jews
Yes.
first, then we take out the Christians.
Yep.
So what's amazing is you'll have Christians saying, yeah. They need to get rid of the Jews. It's like, wait, you get rid of the Jews in the area, what happens? They're going after Christians next. So even if you didn't care about Jews at all, they're focusing their attacks on Jews, but right after, if they ever get victory over the Jews, they're coming after the Christians next.
And that's why I said they're the useful idiots. They will be used against the Jews, and then their turn will come.
Yeah, and so as a Christian, you should seek the welfare of everyone. But even if you were just even if hypothetically all you cared about was Christians, okay, then guess what? You don't want the Jews. You don't want them to have victory over the Jews.
Yep.
See, I like both of you so much. I'm a former Muslimah who is now a Christian. I didn't know how depraved Islam was when I was a Muslim. Yep, that's what we're trying to get across. We should be Islamophobic. In fact, so should other Muslims. And Muslims don't realize how Islamophobic they are, right? Because they're all targeted. Whatever group of Muslims you're from, there's another group that wants to kill or subjugate you. Yeah. Speak the truth. Did they write the letter? Did they write a letter about what Hamas did to their brothers and sisters in Gaza and West Banks before October 7th?
No.
Nope. And it's a sucky. It's a terrible situation because you can't question it or criticize it because they'll come and kill you. You can criticize Israel. People do that. There are protests in Israel.
Nothing will happen to them if they criticize Israel or criticize the West. Mm-hmm. So it's something that they will. That doesn't have a price. But if you criticize Hamas, you will pay a price. So they choose the easiest way.
That's similar to what other people do in that, like entertainers and stuff, they'll make fun of Christianity, but they won't make fun of Islam because they don't want to get killed.
Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah, let's go this road.
Yeah. So no, guys, they are the good ones who abhor all violence, and we are the ones who do bombs. Get it right. They are the ones who quote the Bible but miss its spirit. We're those who support genocide. Yeah, it's a situation where you have actual bad situations in the world, and sometimes there is no ideal. Matter of fact, there's never an ideal outcome of war. There's never any perfect scenario. It's just trying to pick the least bad path forward. They fear Muslims more than Jesus.
Yep.
Again, guys, I actually understand that. If I were Palestinian Christian, I would not want to be running out blasting away at Hamas, but I would want other people in other parts of the world doing it, right? I would want other people dealing with it. I would understand if I'm a Christian in Gaza or the West Bank that you don't want to be calling out the terrorists because they're not only going to come after you, they'll come after your family, they'll come after your entire village and so on. So you do have to be careful.
But David, you would not write a letter asking people
That's right. That's what I'm saying.
Being Islamophobic.
That's right. That's exactly. There, it seems like... So I understand not calling out Hamas. I get that completely. Your lives would be in danger. I don't get telling everyone in the rest of the world to stop being Islamophobic. Right? That's bad. Bunch of cowards. They sound like Dawa, not Christians. No wonder Islam is taking over.
Yep. Unfortunately,
it is a rough situation. Yeah, I mean, knowing the situation they're in, it would just if you wanted to put out a letter saying, hey, help Christians as much as you can and so on, would have been totally fine with that. Lumping together anti-Semitism and Zionism and Islamophobia and blaming Christians in the West for not calling for the extermination of Israel or something like that. That's just, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what you're doing. Can't get on board with that. Letter hijacks Bible verses. Hijacks. The letter hijacks Bible verses, but does not align with the Bible. God bless you, Brother Rachid and D. Wood, for bringing this to attention. Yeah, guys, as far as the biblical perspective, as a Christian, you are not supposed to go out trying to subjugate the world for Jesus. The Bible does acknowledge that governments have authority from God as places that are supposed to achieve justice, seek justice, and punish wrongdoers, and so on. That's exactly what Israel's doing. So, from a biblical perspective,
protect its own people.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And so from a biblical perspective, Israel protecting its own people from terrorists, hunting down the terrorists to bring them to justice and to bring back their own hostages that were taken, that's all completely biblical to me.
Yes.
If they're doing something that is just evil or something, you can absolutely condemn it. But the complaints that we're seeing right now are not that.
Yep.
A couple more. I've heard Palestinian Christians speak about growing up being beaten by Muslim Palestinians. They still considered Israel the bad guys. It's sad. That's exactly what I said. I could be in prison and a guy could stab me in my face, and I could be in the hospital. The guards would send someone to protect me and get me medical treatment and so on. If you just the way you're wired after being in that environment so long, you still feel like the police and the guards and so on, they're the enemies. In fact, I felt like that. It's still not completely out of my system. When I pass by a police car to this day, he's about to come get me and like smack me in the head with a stick, and there's nothing I can do about it. I still feel like that. That's how it gets programmed into you. So I can actually, I have a glimpse of what it would be like. But yeah, that doesn't mean that if someone has that mentality of let's get rid of the cops, that you say, okay, yeah, let's get rid of the cops because that person, grew up in that and was in that environment for a while. You can't do it. Let's see. Nope, no comment there. Palestinian Christians are really Arab Christians?
That's a good question. They call themselves Arab Christians, but who knows? I mean, they were Arabized and Islamized.
Yeah. So some of them would, and you'd have a kind of a mixture of others, but you would have lots of Arabs there and so on.
Probably some of them, their ancestors were Jews. Nobody will know except if you do a DNA thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
and what a lot of people are gonna get there if they do a DNA test is a big mixture. There's a big mix because again, this is the Ottoman Empire, and you had a bunch of people from various places. Yeah. Remember, the word is powerful to convert. Trinitarian Bible Societies translates the book of John into Arabic. We can sneak them into mosques, etc. The internet's also powerful for reaching people. That's why we're here. Say hi to Brother Rachid from me, please. Hey, David, I'm a Moroccan Christian too. Still a closet Christian, unfortunately, but all ham to Allah. Am I right? Got a fellow Moroccan Christian there, Brother Rachid.
Yeah.
Nice. Moroccans are taking over. Jay Dyer just debated Muslim Lantern. I thought that was Andrew something. Jay Dyer just debated Muslim Lantern. It's really wild how many fallacies and lies he's told, and Muslims eat it up. We'll have to check that out. I thought it was Andrew Wilson debating, but I don't know if there was another one with Jay Dyer. We'll check that out. We'll figure it out. Two more. No to Islama, Kamala, Hamas, word, Salada.
Whatever.
And Drew here says, with worldwide migration issues, what do you think the hope for going back to the Middle East and taking it back is for Christians and ex-Muslims, Brother Rachid and D. Wood? I'll just give it my perspective. I don't think Christians should be like, we're going to go take over the Middle East. But I think that as Islam is exposed, you're going to get a weaker and weaker Islam. Islam is crumbling in the Muslim world. I mean, you're talking like Iran now is 40% Muslim population. Iran is now a Muslim minority population. You have you have millions and millions of ex-Muslims living in Muslim countries who just aren't free to talk about it. And so this is just going to continue because we're going to relentlessly keep up the pressure. So I think you are going to have some improvements with the situation there. What's your thoughts on this, Rachid?
Of course, the Middle East is going to change. Some countries are opening up. For example, Saudi Arabia is not the Saudi Arabia that used to be just 10 years ago. They are making peace with Israel. Some of them, they are, the funny thing or the irony, a letter like this would not be written in United Arab Emirates. They will refuse to write it. They will not accept it. So United Arab Emirates, for example, is changing. Other places, Morocco is changing. Other places as well. So more with the growth of social media and internet and AI and all these things, people will have answers. They can ask questions and get answers. People are exposed to different ideas and worldviews, so they are changing. So I think more people will leave Islam, as David say, and more people will accept Christianity and other worldviews.
That's true. That's true. And the only issue there is we don't know what's gonna come out of that. I do think whatever happens, whatever has happened is going to be better than Islam. And we have Christians are spiritual Jews. We are family. And finally, I've said enough tonight. God bless you too, brothers and sisters. Thanks for getting us riled up. That's what we do. We rile people up. There was one extra question. OJ NAFTA said, "Hey, David Wood, my super chat didn't get posted. How could I get a hold of you? I want to ask a question." You can post it as a comment here unless it's something private. If it's something private, you can look up my email address. If you go to answeringislam.net, you can find my email. I don't want to just post it here because then like bots and stuff pick it up. If you go to answeringislam.net, you can go to the individual authors section, and there's a link to my email address there if you want to send me something in private. Otherwise, post it in the comments here, and I'll check in a little while. See if you posted anything. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to Brother Rachid. Definitely want to follow Brother Rachid's work. Follow him on Twitter and on YouTube.
We have another one next week, right? It will be a good one.
Oh yeah. We're gonna have a fun show next week, ladies and gentlemen. We'll have a fun time next week. And one last super chat here. Did you see the West Point article on Islam? Not sure which one you're referring to, but if it was by the military historian who said that Israel has done a phenomenal job at minimizing that they're like unparalleled in minimizing civilian casualties. Because keep in mind, I mean, you look at something like World War II. Like 2/3 of the deaths were civilian casualties. And that's in an environment where you had armies marching out against each other on huge battlefields and so on. This is close quarter urban warfare where where one side is deliberately trying to maximize civilian casualties. It's a nightmare situation. And so, a military historian for West Point pointed out that it's like they're unmatched, which is amazing because they're blasted for genocide. Weird situation. All right, guys. I think me and Brother Rachid will be back next week for a fun topic. Catch you all.